All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Run! Go! This is the podcast!
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a podcast?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and
Podcast.
and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey everyone, welcome to Get to the Movies. That's Get to the Movies with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
And we got a special guest.
I mean, he's a guest.
No, he's a special
Wow.
guest.
He's special.
Yeah.
He's special.
guy.
This guy,
I'm
right?
joshing. He
So-
can't do anything. He's like all the way across the fucking country.
So we had
That's true.
to get Mike from MDX Pod in here because this
The
is
expert on
Yeah.
Marvel affairs.
the expert of Marvel because things are getting serious. People are just getting, oh my gosh, kill Sony. Oh my gosh, kill
the
Disney.
Sony
It's
Marvel
just
thing
like-
with Spider-Man.
It's getting like really crazy. So we
Yeah.
need to get an expert in, get his opinion, and let's see how this goes.
So let's go to our special correspondent out in California. Our Marvel correspondent, Mike from MDX Pods. What up, Mike?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
So, Sony and Marvel.
Yeah, I hear people are
Spider-
smashing PS4s in the street to protest.
I haven't seen that. I think most people were waiting for D23, which is still going on.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Which
Which
Tom Holland.
I work down the street from Disneyland and where they're having it. So like most of my office was like shut down because so many people were going to the Disney Expo. So
Holy shit.
I'm really interested to see what really comes out after this week. I don't think we'll get an announcement saying everything's fine and dandy, but
Because the
Disney Expo has
announcement
already
is that
been
it's,
kind of enlightening.
Yeah. Well, the announcement, just so that everybody's up to speed, is that they've terminated their relationship, Sony and Marvel, which means that the movie rights to Spider-Man are solely with Sony. Marvel
Yeah.
can't do any more Spider-Man stuff. That means Tom Holland is not going to be in the MCU anymore. The idea, as far as we know it, is that Tom Holland, he even said it at D23, is that he's going to go on and keep doing things with the Spider-Man character with just Sony.
Yeah.
And he kind of...
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah, he was just...
Yeah.
It was actually kind of
Wow.
like... People were getting all emotional about his kind of
Well,
goodbye.
the thing that's crazy is him and Kevin Feige both broke their silence yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
And they both basically said verbatim the same thing, that they always knew that it was a finite amount of time that they would get to tell as many stories as possible with
Right.
this character in the MCU. So they obviously clearly worked together to come up with a statement that was going to be aligned. But yeah, Kevin Feige and Tom Holland both basically said the same thing. When the news broke, Tom Holland spent the day with Robert Downey Jr., went hiking, and his presence has been interesting. Like Tom Holland didn't really say anything directly, but stopped following Sony on his social media and just let people figure that out on their own. So
Yo, did
I
he really?
think
That
it's
sounds
obvious.
Drama.
Wow.
Ah.
but I get it. Like I'm very much team Disney, team Marvel on this, and I know we're going to discuss it, and I'll tell you why. But I'm ready to systematically break down any arguments you guys have that are pro Sony.
Well, what's funny is that, yeah, you've been very vocal on social media about this.
Yeah.
If you go on MDX Pods right now, you're basically only going to see boycott Sony. And I think he's crafting some magazine clipping death threats right now.
Oh my god.
The psycho he is.
If they actually go forward with how they were going to storm Area 51.
Yeah.
If they actually storm Sony and Culver, I'm only like a half hour away from Sony
down.
Studios.
Actually, it's gonna
That's
be,
where he's gonna start.
He's gonna go on the Area
Storm
51, and he's gonna be like him, and like 3 people are gonna break off and just go storm Sony.
The aliens are actually at Sony Studios.
Yes.
He's gonna be in there convincing people, handing out flyers, and like it's like if you gotta be a real nut to get the Area 51 guys to like break off that.
We knew it. Their name was too simple.
But yeah, it's interesting because I think the basic argument or the reason they terminated is that Disney wanted a bigger piece of the pie, and Sony was like, no, and Sony was like, fuck that, we don't want to give you any more. We've already, given you. I guess they were giving Disney like 5%. Is that right? Like
No, so it's actually 5% of first earnings, which first earnings based on a contract could be one of two things. It could be literally the first day, or it could be the first weekend of earnings. So they don't get 5%. They get
That's
5% of the first earnings.
That's shit.
And apparently, insiders have saying they waived it on both Spider-Man movies so far.
Really? Oh wow! So
Yeah.
Sony has really been up on this. Like
Yeah.
And so Disney came through and was like, we want 50% because we're doing all the work. We're doing all the.
But
heavy
it's also not
lifting.
50% of money. They want to 50% co-finance it.
So-
So they also want to put money up front.
Okay.
And the way I see it is Sony's foolish not to take some sort of deal. Now, I've also gathered from multiple sources that it's not actually 50-50 that Sony or that Marvel asked for. They actually asked for 70-30.
Okay.
With 70 favoring Sony.
Oh,
But to me, it makes no sense for Sony not to want to do something, obviously, with Far From Home being their biggest movie ever.
Right.
Their first movie to cross $1 billion.
Yeah.
The return on investment percentage does not change. So if they, let's say for the sake of simple math, Far From Home only did $1 billion. It's closer to 1.2 billion at this time. But let's say it only cost $1 billion, or it made $1 billion. The movie cost like 180 million to make or something like that. And then they pumped a little over 200 million into promotional stuff. So for sake of math, round up and say $400 million this movie costs. They made 600 million. If Sony didn't, if Marvel co-financed this film, they would have only had to put 200 million and they would have made 300 million. So they still make a 50% ROI, which is an insane amount of money to make.
So
it's
maybe-
foolish
Yeah.
So
to
maybe
not
it's-
want to go through and do it.
Yeah, so maybe it's not the money, it's the contract. Maybe there's something else in there that Sony's
And
just seeing a lot
there
of loss.
is.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but Sony, from what I gather, is swinging their big dick. They're feeling very
That's exactly what they're doing.
Because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did well. Yes, I know we were talking. It didn't really make that much money. It made decent money, and they did win an Oscar for it, and it's gotten a lot of praise, and it's probably
did,
making a
but you
lot of
gotta
money on
look at-
streaming platforms and digital sales and so on. And they did Venom, surprisingly.
Made a lot of money. It
Yeah,
did over
like
$1
That
billion.
one's a fluke
It-
because I went through and rewatched that movie a couple weeks ago.
It's not great.
It's not a good movie.
No.
But somehow people loved it. Like
I don't know.
That,
It's
that movie
better
made
than it
money
had any
on,
right
on,
to
on
be.
word of mouth
Yeah.
somehow. That's what's
Well,
crazy.
you had two things in there.
That's
you
like
had
Donald
two,
Trump winning an election. It's just sort of like we're like, no, fuck it, it's not gonna happen, and then all of a sudden,
Well,
other people
and
come out of the
I
woodwork.
have a couple reasons why I think that went well, and a couple reasons why I think. So ultimately, I think Sony's plan was always to pull out at this juncture.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. A couple weeks back, there were these stories that were breaking saying that if Far From Home didn't do $1 billion, Sony had the right to pull out of the agreement. And everyone's like, holy crap, save Spidey, go see this movie again. And then, of course, it broke $1 billion. Everyone's like, cool, Spidey's safe. But between that and a couple of things that happened around Venom, I think Sony was always being kind of shady with this deal. So when they announced Venom, there was that conference where Amy Pascal said Venom is part of the MCU. And then Kevin Feige looked at her like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then so she kind of like backpedaled and said it's MCU adjacent. And then Sony was doing all these things like Tom Holland went and visited the set because he's friends with Tom Hardy. Tom Holland had been in a couple movies together. Tom Hardy played his father in that I can't remember the name of the one where he drives in the car
Locke.
and it's just a
Locke.
conversation.
Lock, yeah.
Yeah. So they're friends. So he went to visit him, and Sony let people believe, like all over the news, they were saying that Tom Holland's going to appear in the Venom movie. People from Sony, including the director, basically said Spider-Man won't appear in this, but it's possible that Peter Parker might. So everybody thought that Spider-Man and Peter Parker were potentially going to be in this Venom movie, and that it could possibly be part of the MCU someday. And Sony did nothing to squash those rumors. So they kind of like misled people with the Sony deal to make more money.
Right.
And then at their first chance, they were like, oh, if this movie doesn't make $1 billion, even though no Spider-Man movie ever made $1 billion, no Sony movie ever made $1 billion. And they're going to say if Marvel's movie doesn't make $1 billion, it's going to cut and run. I don't think Sony ever had an intention of sticking to this deal long term.
Interesting. I mean, they obviously have. They would be stupid to let go of the rights altogether, Sony, which is not really
Right.
I don't think been
which
discussed.
is not what Marvel is asking.
Exactly,
Will they-
but
but will
is
they-
it just another step towards doing that? Like, is this them going, we don't want to keep letting go, giving you more and more rope, then we're going to turn around and you guys going to have the whole franchise. When they're sitting there going, Spider-Man is so much more than just Spider-Man. You have Venom, you have the Sinister Six, you have so much that can be done. It
That's
can be
my
made
thought.
into its own
They own-
universe.
That's my thought.
They own like 900 characters.
Yeah,
Sony,
crazy.
between
That's
the
my whole
Fox
thing.
properties.
Is Sony trying to do a Spider-Verse type of deal? And
They are. Well, there's a couple things that have been rumored to be going on with Sony. So, go back when Andrew Garfield was still Spider-Man, they were going to do a Sinister Six movie without Spider-Man. They were going to do a Secret Agent Aunt May Spider-Man film. There's been a Black Cat Silver Sable movie that they've been working on that's apparently been canceled or pushed. And then, of course, Morbius is filming with Jared Leto right now.
I'm excited about that, by the way. I was a huge Morbius fan growing up, so I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in these Sony movies. So, like, think back. When was the last really good Sony movie? Like, I enjoyed the Ghostbusters reboot, but I wouldn't say it's an amazing movie. There is some editing. That movie could be edited down a little bit, but I wouldn't say that was obviously financially that wasn't a home run.
Right.
Even from a quality standpoint, I really enjoy it. I watch it at least once every year since it's come out, but it's still not a slam dunk. You go and look at the RoboCop reboot, not a slam dunk. You look at Total Recall, not a very good movie.
No, well,
they just haven't had anything other than Venom and Spider-Verse.
What about the next? They're doing the next Ghostbusters.
well, they
right?
had Into the Verse,
and
Spider-Man Into the
and
Verse.
so Into the Spider-Verse. I think Nick mentioned that he and I were talking about this the other day. That movie cost $90 million.
Right.
Which isn't a lot for a movie this day and age. It's a lot for an animated film, and that movie is amazing. I love that movie. I saw it 3 times in theaters, including like I was able to get into like a sneak preview like a month and a half before the movie came out. So I'm all on board on that movie. But it did like $200 and something million. And when you look at the way movies are produced and published, you take the money from the movie that you spent actually making it, and most companies will double that do at least that or double for promotional materials. So let's say on the conservative side, that $90 million, they only spent $90 million on promotions, which I know they spent more than that. You couldn't, throw a stick without hitting an advertisement for Into the Spider-Verse. But let's say for argument's sake, they only spent the $90 million on promotion. That's $180 million. This movie made $300 million. That's only a $120 million profit. Now, for us, $120 million is a lot, but for a movie studio, that's nothing. Yeah. That's negligible in terms of earnings.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at Spider-Man Far From Home, which made, at this point, we're at about 1.2. It's made $700 million.
Right.
Yeah. Here's
Though it's also there's something to say about having a prestige film in your lineup, like one that's so well regarded. And Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse is very well regarded. It's probably doing really well, like I said, streaming, digital sales, and so on.
Oh, I'm sure, and it's on Netflix already.
Yeah, so I think that one they're very happy with, and then it also leads into being able to do more in that universe, more animated films, and so on.
And this is where I do think Disney is getting a little off. There's another rumor, and Diego kind of mentioned like there's got to be something else going on with the contract. I don't know if you guys know this, but Kevin Feige is a huge fan of superheroes in cinema, regardless of who makes it. Right. So he's gone on and said, he wants the DC movies to do well because that just means his genre is doing well. He got to start working on it with Fox, and he kind of helped get the X-Men going. Yep. But since he's been with Disney and Marvel, he has actually gone back and helped people out. So Sony asked him for notes for Amazing Spider-Man 2. And he gave them a bunch of notes and pretty much all the things that people don't like about that movie, which I think the movie's fine. I enjoyed the movie. It's not my favorite Spider-Man film, but I think there are some good things in there. Apparently, Kevin Feige went and saw a screening, gave them notes, saw a second screening, gave them more notes, and Sony ignored all the notes for that. And then they, of course, made this arrangement. Well, apparently, Kevin Feige came on and ghost produced Sony's Venom and Into the Spider-Verse and didn't get any credit for it. And apparently that's like one thing that Kevin Feige's boss was like, he produced this stuff and you're not giving him any credit for it. So that is one part that technically he works for a different company. I can see Sony not, if he's just giving notes, like we don't know what his actual involvement in those projects were.
I think I read that.
But it's probably it may not be a morally good thing to do, but it's probably smart as well because again they don't want to give too much rope, and then all of a sudden
I agree. So I can see why Sony wouldn't do that because it makes it look like Marvel is doing all this because Sony right now is trying to take credit for all of it. In one interview that I saw come out, they said that they literally said this in their statement. We learned everything we could from Kevin Feige's playbook. Like, it just makes it seem like they just wanted to pick Kevin Feige's brains, learn how to do everything. It's like an apprentice going and learning from the master, being like, I can do this on my own, and then just cutting and running. Right. Like, that's what it really seems like from the things that I've gathered. And like Nick mentioned, like, they're just kind of swinging their dicks. Like, the news broke. Marvel hasn't released a statement officially until yesterday with Kevin Feige saying, hey, we had a finite amount of time. But Sony immediately goes, they were asking for, 50%. And it turns out, for the most part, it doesn't seem like that was actually true. And then when people were still outraged, people were on Disney's side saying, yeah, they haven't made any money off of this. And it's like, you guys are in film. You guys are in the industry. And there's this thing with artists where they think when you're starting out as an artist, hey, you should work for free to get, promotion and, whatnot out there. But eventually you have to start charging for your work. And I'm one of those people who thinks artists should always charge for their labors. Oh, yeah. Why would Disney do this work for essentially free? And even if they were taking the 5%, which from what I've gathered, they actually waived the 5%, and it's first earnings. So the movie did like 60, 70 million the first weekend or first day. So 5% of that is $3 million is nothing for Disney. And that's basically working for free. Right. Like, yeah, they had all their stuff covered, but they didn't make any money off these properties. Why would you do that as an artist?
Right. I think it's probably for future projects. It's probably to keep their relationship. They probably saw how much of a jerk Sony was being.
I can see that. Yeah. So it's like, here's our value. We've shown you our value. We gave you your first $1 billion movie. Yeah. Now we want to make this a real partnership. It would be like if, an artist goes through, somebody walks, or you see this all the time where someone's a graphic designer and somebody goes, hey, can you make my logo? And they're like, oh yeah, we charge $1,000 for that. Oh wait, don't you want to just do it for the publicity? Yeah. No, I don't. So then they go and do it, and then the next time around they want to charge.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I do need food. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to artists. A lot of people do not pay artists the rightful amount of money, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and that's essentially what's going on. Is Sony or Disney fell for that, like, okay, we'll do this for the promotion and prove our worth, and then as soon as they prove their worth, they're like, oh, we've already got the logo, we don't need it.
I think Sony is literally trying to capitalize on this universe thing. I really do. I think,
but how?
Because now, if they take Tom Holland, which he's literally supposed to be the rising star in the MCU, and they take him and make a Spider-Verse and get it right there when it's high, when everybody is on that high from Endgame, and you have that. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, but you're bastardizing the character at that point because you can't use any of the stuff that happened in Far From Home.
Correct. Correct. They're doing it wrong. They're totally doing it wrong if that's what they're trying to do. And it's like they really should.
That version.
Yeah, they really should figure this out. Here's my thing.
Yeah, why keep Tom Holland at that point? Because you can't use any of the stuff that happened in the MCU.
I think they can. I see ways where they can continue Tom Holland's story where he's
how.
Well, he doesn't have to mention MCU. He could literally be, past the events and now has grown stronger, and now he has to deal with.
They can't use Happy Hogan, who's a big part of. Where is he going to get all of his tech from? Which I'm fine with Spider. That is the one thing I wish
Doc Ock
they did different. Was that he did his own tech, but at this point, but why even have Tom Holland at this point if you can't acknowledge his tie and him being a protege to Iron Man?
Because I don't think they have
that he did any of this alien stuff. Like none of this stuff. Like get another actor at that point. Like I'd rather see a fourth reboot.
If they do that. By the way, congratulations, Tom Maguire for having the only trilogy.
Tom Holland?
No.
Tobey Maguire? Oh, Tobey Maguire. Yeah. That's what fucking Neil was.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like my initial reaction when I heard this was like, thank God now we can have Tobey Maguire come back with some like anti-aging CG technology.
I hope they do a multiverse thing with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. Like
that would be amazing.
I'll tell you, I would be down for hilarious. Even if it's a stunt film. I would watch it. It's like one off crazy.
Part of me feels like this entire drama is exactly that, and it's either being done. It's either being played by Disney trying to get the fans to put pressure on Sony, or it's being done by Sony they're creating this drama so that Disney is willing to fold and either way,
But
both
the thing is,
studios are
Disney-
playing
But see,
a PR game.
Here's the thing.
This is a big PR game.
Wordplay
ultimately.
is very easy in filmmaking. They can easily talk about Tom Holland's past with Iron Man without mentioning them. It's that I don't think that is an issue that they're gonna have.
It'll be distracting if they have to
It
tap
would
dance
be-
around it, though. It's
but-
going to be distracting.
Yeah.
If they don't acknowledge what happened at the end, I know you guys haven't covered Far From Home on the actual
Yeah, because
episode.
these fucks haven't seen it.
Okay, so I'm not gonna spoil it, but that movie ends on a cliffhanger.
It does. And something I think Neil would
and-
like, to be honest.
And
My
it
nephew
is
saw it and he was
something
like, the
that,
movie sucked.
as a longtime Spider-Man fan, so Spider-Man is my jam. I have thousands of Spider-Man comic books, hundreds of figures and collectibles.
That's my favorite
My
superhero
desk at
also when I
work-
grew up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, my desk at work has several Spider-Man figures on it. Like, that is my character. That's who I related to as a child, and I've been obsessed with Spider-Man since I was 5 or 6 years old. And as a Spider-Man fan, what that cliffhanger setup would be unlike anything that we've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie, and brings it to the way comic book Spider-Man has always been. Right. And I don't want to ruin it for you guys, so I'm not going to say exactly why, but essentially, Spider-Man has this status quo of being kind of ambivalent in the world. Some people love him, some people hate him. He shows up in the comic books to help a cop, and the cop might one cop might pull their gun on him, the other cop might be like, "Yeah, Spidey." And this movie set that up where we're gonna have this, like, is Spider-Man a threat or a menace kind of thing with J. Jonah Jameson, how he always said that in the original movies, cartoon, comic books, but this in the the Tobey Maguire movies. The city loved Spider-Man except for J. Jonah Jameson. In Amazing Spider-Man, those two movies, the first movie you don't really know how the city feels. You did get the construction workers who helped him because he saved the kid. But in the second movie, you see people in Spider-Man costumes and celebrating. Yeah. Like, Spider-Man in the movies has never really had to worry about his reputation. Right. Like, he was beloved. And this movie sets up something so interesting, and I would be pissed if they don't continue the story.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how they can.
Yeah,
they have so many places to go with it, though.
I think Sony, it's not what we want, definitely, the breakup. But I think Sony does have an opening to take Spider-Man into the own verse. And I think they can do line plays
they can do it.
Mention his history, but not mention something by him coming back to New York and everything, and then start bringing in Venom, Carnage, Morbius,
Just
and
because
everything.
they can doesn't mean they should.
No, exactly. This is what I'm saying. It's not what we want. Exactly. So, but it's so difficult because I hate when politics get involved and ruin something entertaining.
Right.
And this, I feel, is
Right.
what's happening right now.
And there's no indicator that they're still negotiating, by the way.
And
so.
there's
No, there actually are. The Sony guys have basically since day one have said, hey, negotiations are still ongoing. Okay. At D23 Expo, Jon Favreau said he's cautiously optimistic that this is going to work out. At that same interview, Jon Favreau said Happy Hogan is his favorite character he's ever played on screen. Oh, wow. Tom Holland, in his statement, before he had this statement, it's like, hey, I have a finite time. He got on stage and said,
I love you 3000.
hey, it's been a crazy week. We don't really know where everything's going yet, but I love you 3000. Yeah. In my heart of hearts, I think this is going to work out. I think Sony's going to cave. They have enough bad will. Like, if you go and look on social media, you will see people who are like, yeah, Sony's sticking up, fighting the big man, the corporation, Disney. Sony's still a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So people are trying to act like this is a David versus Goliath thing. It's not David versus Goliath. It's Goliath versus a slightly smaller Goliath.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't see Sony, and now Sony's made some stupid mistakes in the past. I just can't see them doing this. Like, it's too far out there. People, like, I personally am going to stand by the boycott. As much as I love the first Zombieland, if this isn't resolved before Zombieland, I'm not going to watch Zombieland in theaters. Same thing with Ghostbusters. I feel strongly enough about this that I won't.
I wish
Are you not gonna watch another Bond
I
film?
wish I had a moral compass, but I don't. So I'm gonna do all that shit. I'm still eating Chick-fil-A. I'm fucking going to see Zombieland. I just suck at boycotting. I just do the things I want in the moment, and I just don't really think of consequences.
He uses the
Which is why I'll
boycott to
be
get
in
him.
prison by 2020.
Lack of integrity over
Yeah,
here.
this guy uses the boycott to get a free ticket to the movie.
Yeah, I'm like, no line. Yes, sign me up.
Oh yeah, that would be
I'm
actually if
not good
people
at the boycott
boycott and
stuff
the
either.
theaters are empty. I would be so happy because I'd be able to go to the theater with it empty.
Did you really want to do this, Mike? Did you really want to get on this podcast?
No, I understand what you're saying.
I had
I
a couple other podcasts reach out and see if I wanted to jump on this weekend, but I chose you guys.
look at that.
Look at this
nice.
guy. See, Nick, somebody does have a moral code.
I mean, I'm
I'd
sure.
rather work with the enemy I know than the enemy I don't know.
Jesus,
Never mind.
fucking Christ, Mike.
But I'm sure there are films and franchises that mean a lot to each one of us that where we would feel the same that you do about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if I looked hard, I could find
And I think
something.
it comes down to that. Like I don't go to Chick-fil-A often, but I've been to Chick-fil-A in the last couple years, and as I'm eating it, I'm like, man, this tastes delicious, but it's bigoted chicken. But it's only been a handful of times, and I think every time has been when somebody else was going.
Yeah, but
So it wasn't just me, and I
I'ma
took that
eat
little
this.
like,
I'ma
well, this
eat
isn't me.
I consider that I'm
But-
taking bigoted chicken out of the world and taking that bullet for people. You know what I mean?
Nick-
I'm removing
That's
more
exactly
bigoted
what I was
chicken
gonna
from the
say.
world.
Nick's like, I'm gonna eat this chicken so somebody doesn't have a choice.
Exactly.
It's like people like, I'm eating the meat so the vegans don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm eating the vegans portion.
I hope it all works out.
But-
Look, I really do, because obviously, the Marvel universe has done something that was incredible. Like I've always said, I haven't been. I got overwhelmed with superheroes, but I never stopped saying that Marvel has an impeccable and just amazing way of telling stories. It's just what they did in over the 10-year period is just, to me, hardly or never done before. And it was just amazing. And I think people should sign up with them. I think studios should sign up with what it shouldn't be I'm a big dog type of thing. It's just, hey, let's get these like top stories out there.
Yeah.
I think if we work together, Fox, you and I work together on X-Men, I think we could get a
They
top
own
notch.
that now, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm just.
Oh, and by the way, that's another thing that Sony is trying to say is the reason they're pulling out is the Fox deal. And they're specifically, some sources are saying Sony's specifically blaming the Phoenix movie that came out a couple months back. They're saying that because that movie didn't do well, Sony was saying that if that movie did well, they would maybe try to fold that version of the X-Men into the MCU. But because that movie didn't do well, now Kevin Feige is going to be too busy to handle Spider-Man. And they said something like, oh, they don't want to work with properties they don't own, so they're not actually going to pay attention to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's no
That
way
sounds like
that
bullshit.
Disney would let Spider-Man
This
drop.
is
But
like outside of Bond. This is their golden nugget.
I think Marvel was happy that bombed because they want to do their own version of X-Men instead of trying to fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing they don't do. They don't try to fit an existing thing. They didn't try to fit Andrew Garfield into the MCU. They were like, let's reboot it. So Marvel likes to do their shit from the jump, themselves. So
there's that, and there's other things where like things that are seemingly unrelated to this that I think Sony should realize that they need to budge. Sony only owns Spider-Man in the movies. They don't own television, and they've talked about wanting to do like a TV connected universe, like the Arrow Flash universe.
please don't.
They don't have those rights. They want to do that. They need to work with Disney and Marvel. They also just bought Insomniac Games, who produced that Spider-Man game. That's just one of the biggest hits of last year. I have two friends who actually work at Insomniac. Insomniac is a 10-minute drive from where I live. Some of them are happy about the acquisition. Some of them aren't. I know a little. I'm not going to say anything because I'm not really supposed to say anything about it because I wasn't supposed to be told this stuff. But the relationship making that game was kind of hectic. Sony had to push, Marvel had to push, Disney had to push, but Disney and Marvel own the video game rights to Spider-Man, and Sony just bought Insomniac. Disney and Marvel can just be like, "Yep, you can't make a sequel to that game." They could totally do that, and that's a huge market for them. That Spider-Man game sold is one of the highest selling games of all time. It pushed consoles like crazy. I bought a PS4 when they announced the Spider-Man game because I wanted to play that game in the future. So, there are other things that Sony wants to do that if they don't play nice with Marvel, they're not going to get a do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
crazy.
It's hopefully they're still negotiating, but from what I've seen, you've got a little bit more insight than I do, but from what I've seen, it sounds like it's kind of definitive and finite. But let's see hopefully they're still kind of about to go back to the table and they're just using this as a tactic, which is sort of like the no negotiating is a tactic.
All this is right now is fucking marketing research. They're trying to see where people lean.
Part of it is.
Yeah. They're trying to see what people
and
lean.
I already I've seen things going on the other side saying that negotiations have been going this entire time and that they're actually working on a deal to like a hard total of 7 more Spider-Man movies. So a second trilogy plus like 3 or 4 more links in the Avengers universe, because they've already announced that there's going to be Young Avengers, New Avengers, Dark Avengers. And the idea was that Spider-Man would be in both Young Avengers and New Avengers and be kind of the leading force in the MCU. So I've already heard that this has been resolved and that they're doing 7 movies.
You know what's happening.
But who knows?
What's going to happen on Monday. Sony's going to come out and be like, I kid. Hey, it was a joke.
Can't take a fucking joke.
Come
And I
on,
think
people. What the hell?
Ultimately,
They're going to do it.
like, yeah, they're going to have to do some verbal acrobatics because I think Disney played this smart, even if everything that Sony told us was true, that they did ask for 50-50. Now, realistically, if Disney asked for 50-50, they wanted 70-30 or 80-20 or something like that. You always ask for more than you want. When I got my new job, a year ago, I asked for $5,000 more a year than I actually wanted. They offered me $10,000 less, and then I countered, and then I got what I actually wanted by asking for more than I wanted. So Sony needs to learn how to negotiate, but I think Sony or Disney played this right by not commenting. Sony just, bit their they should have just bit their tongue, but they said all these things. They went after Kevin Feige personally, and in the new universe, Kevin Feige is almost up there with Stan Lee at this point.
Yeah,
It's true.
And as soon as they went after Kevin Feige, everyone's like, "Whoa,
That's
hold
our
your
golden
horses."
boy.
So,
Don't you touch a hair
Yeah.
on his head. It's it's really. I hope that they do make a deal, right? But if they don't, MCU is going to be fine. They got 20 some odd films in the fucking pipeline. They're are amazing things,
they're just going to make it. They're going to.
They got shows. They got movies. It's going to be incredible.
They're going to do something. They're going to be smart about it. They're going to do something to kill off Spider-Man.
Yeah.
the MCU.
They
and
have
then
to.
pay the
Like, that's
fine.
the
Be
thing
like,
is they
here's
set
here's
him
the
up.
fine.
Yeah.
See ya.
It's Sony that doesn't have. They're the ones that are
in
making
the
the
corner.
gamble. They're the ones making the gamble, and I understand what they're doing. Like I really can't just say what they're doing is completely insane, and we really have not been in the negotiating rooms.
I can.
I know you can because you're you. But what I'm saying is that they don't. They have to be smart as a business, right? They have to kind of just make sure they're also not going to end up over a barrel. We haven't been in the negotiating rooms. We're hearing sound bites or sources, undefined sources kind of relaying this stuff. Yeah. And you never really know exactly. It's kind of a he said, she said thing. So
Except Sony has actually said some things and then have reversed what they said.
And I get it. But again, the world is not cut and dry. It's not black or white. It's shades of gray. 50.
Yes, it
no,
is.
It's not yet. You fucking. That's like a sociopath mentality. It's just black or white. No, it really. So I'm just like I don't really know. I'm siding war with Marvel on this, but at the same time, I'm always of the mind that I don't actually know unless I'm in those rooms. Unless I'm intimately involved, I cannot make a definitive statement because that's crazy. I hope they do figure it out, but I do know that Sony is trying to protect their future as well, and they're trying to be like, we actually, now that they, Marvel's got 20th Century Fox, they showed that they're willing to go through great lengths to get their properties back, right? So Sony's like, we're like the last fucking guys who have a Marvel thing, and we still make a lot of money off these things, and we're trying to think with the future. The more we let go, the less we might have, and we might get to the point where we're forced into a corner, because that is a thing, you know what I mean? Hostile takeovers is a real thing in the corporate world.
Yeah, Disney could just buy Sony.
Yeah, but I don't think Disney could actually get Sony at this.
Well, here's
point.
the thing.
we didn't
Here's
think
the
they would
thing.
get
It took
20th
long
Century
enough
Fox.
to
We
get the
thought
Fox deal.
that they weren't going to be allowed to acquire 20th Century Fox, and that was insane. That was
But
allowed
like
to
5,
happen.
10 years from now,
Yeah.
they could easily acquire.
Yeah, because
Sony.
we're
They could be
thinking
large
within the
enough.
next 1 to 2 years. When you're a corporation that big,
Right.
you're thinking 10, 15, 20 years in the future.
You know what, I don't think, like, financially, yes, they could absorb them, but I do think with how much trouble as they had with the Fox Century deal, because it cleared in the U.S., where it had all of its hurdles, was in Brazil, Spain, and there was one other European country that it had some hurdles. And they had to, like, sell off some of the sports packages and some of the broadcasting stuff. But I don't think a Sony deal would go through. I think that would start to get a little bit closer to having antitrust issues.
Yeah.
But
Who knows, right?
I don't know.
I think
I know.
we're
We're
looking at it
heading in that
artistically.
direction, though.
Yes.
We are heading in that direction of a film monopoly or whatever. Like that's definitely coming.
Yeah, and we're emotional about it, and we're
But
looking
see,
at it
here's the
artistically.
thing.
But I love Disney, so I don't really care.
He loves Disney, hates Marvel, so he's a little like.
and they can let Marvel go.
They can let Marvel.
I
Yeah,
think-
they're gonna do that. Sure.
They're not gonna do that.
Oh, and also one other thing, because I know you guys are trying to keep the episode shorter, but the Disney Plus, it was a huge thing this weekend with all the announcements, all the different
November
TV
12th.
shows.
A lot of trailers.
Which
Yeah.
makes me super excited. Moon Knight coming out
Mandalorians.
is
Yeah.
amazing.
Not Marvel,
but Sony wants to do TV stuff. And I've been reading some of the stuff saying that Marvel, part of their deals to sweeten the spot was like, hey, you guys don't technically have TV rights, but what if we let you make your Spider-Verse TV series and do all your different Sony Spider-Man properties on Disney Plus, and we'll give you a cut of that. I've actually read that they were willing to give Sony a cut of Disney Plus to do that. So, working with Marvel gives them a lot more venues to make money.
But it's giving them a piece
And also
of the pie,
they're-
and it's not giving them the actual oven
Well,
in
and
which
the
that
biggest
pie is
thing
being
is
made.
risk.
That's the thing everybody's trying to do. Everybody's pulling from Netflix and Hulu and so on, and they're trying to create their own thing. And this is that's just another thing where Sony's not trying
And
to
Sony's
be.
tried. They have Crackle, and it sucks.
Crackle's amazing. So many
It's
people,
not great.
so many subscribers.
Comedians drinking coffee or
No,
whatever.
comedians
it's
and
called.
drinking coffee went
That
to
was that was
Netflix.
but I was on Crackle
I
first.
know that's the only
so
reason I actually use Crackle.
That's the only reason I also use Crackle.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I don't
don't
know.
know.
I mean, we're gonna have to see. Neil could give a fucking shit, to be honest. He just wants Tobey Maguire back. He'll do anything for Tobey Maguire.
Where is Tobey
See,
Maguire?
I want Tobey Maguire to show up as Uncle Ben.
that would be
You know where he's at?
amazing.
You know
Like-
where he's at? You know where Tobey Maguire is at?
No.
He just released a film. He's in Brittany runs a marathon.
Oh, that looks good. I didn't see him in the trailer for that.
Yeah, he's in it. I know he's in
I
it.
want to see that. I don't think he's in
Oh,
that.
I haven't seen this.
I don't think he's in that.
He is in that.
I think
Why?
you're wrong.
Because I saw the show, the premiere of it, and he was there.
You saw the premiere of it?
Yes, I saw the premiere of it.
And people that are at premieres doesn't mean
Diego
they're in
saw
the film.
the premiere.
Not the film.
Yeah, but I'm saying just because somebody goes to the premiere doesn't mean they're in the movie.
Okay, so I saw him being called out as a cast member on stage.
Yeah, he's definitely not. You're full of shit.
Okay,
I'm going with that.
I can
I don't
definitely
know.
show it to you after because I still have the footage.
You're getting off
There
subject.
we go.
God.
There we
Nick
go.
always trying to swing his little.
My little, as Neil said before the podcast, your little chode dick. I'm like, that's redundant. A chode dick?
His pinky plus.
That doesn't. My
I don't know. I'm on IMDb and I don't see Tobey Maguire in anything since the adult
I will
narrator of Boss
100%
Baby in
show it to you.
2017. I don't see any upcoming projects on the IMDb.
Yep.
Do you want to do this during the
I'm looking
podcast?
through it
Do
right
you
now.
want to do this during the
I'm
podcast?
going through IMDb. He's not there. He's not in the cast at all.
You wanna do this
He might be a
during the
producer.
Diego, I was on your side. I was backing you up, but
He's a producer.
the internet
He's a
doesn't
producer. I
lie.
just saw it. He's a producer on Brittany Runs.
Thank you.
Yeah, but he's not a cast member. You
I said that he
he's in
was
it.
doing something. I thought he was a cast member.
Yeah, but then you're right. He's
You,
producing.
no, you said he was in it. And
yeah,
you had
I,
the
said,
footage.
I just
too.
said that. I said I had no. I said I had the footage of him being on stage being
Called
called
out
out,
as a cast member.
and that's
You
what
said
I
called out as a cast
I
member.
did. I just said that. I just
Cast
said
is
that.
not
I do want
producers,
to point
cast
out
means you're
that
acting.
I just said he was called
When,
out as a cast member. I'm not saying I didn't get my info wrong, but I said I know he was doing something.
Just take the
shut
L,
up.
man.
it made it seem like he was
Take
going to
the
be in
L.
it. But Diego, if it makes you feel better, when Nick and I were discussing this episode a few days back, him and Neil spelled Toby wrong. They don't know how to spell Toby Maguire.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
it's
spelled it
T-O-B-Y.
without an E. All I did was just copy off
T-O.
what he just did, but I did know it was EY. I just, when I answered him, I sent him a screenshot of your saying, good, now bring my boy.
Yeah,
It's Tobey, right?
Yeah, it's EY. He
Yeah.
did it like
EY.
it's a frozen yogurt. That's TCBY.
Oh, but he did
T-O-B-Y.
TOBY.
Yeah.
TOBY. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I
Ignorant.
mean, I recently we rewatched Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and 3 actually wasn't as bad as I remembered for some reason.
3 is just as good as the other two.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I
I don't think he gives a shit about the first and second one. Is what he's saying.
I think the first one is the best. So
That's
I covered
crazy.
those on
Yeah.
Remake Rewind.
I listened to
I
that
think
one.
the first one is actually the best of the 3, but the third one, I'd say is 80 to 90% what the other two are. It's nowhere near as bad as
Yeah.
they say it is.
There's a couple scenes in the movie which I think detract from the movie. The jazz dancing, the emo thing, like that's weird. It doesn't.
There's
He's
just
more emo in
I think there's,
Spider-Man
like,
2.
not
No,
enough
he's more of a
context.
loser in the second one.
He loses his powers because he's sad in Spider-Man
Well, that's
2.
actually something that, if I remember correctly, was touched upon in the comic books. It's not because he was sad. Yes, come on,
No, he never lost his powers
It's
because
not
he was
that he
sad.
lost his powers.
He
'cause
lost
was
his
sad.
powers.
That's an oversimplification.
He in the second movie, that's literally what it is.
No, he just doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. It's a power
Yeah,
of choice.
because he's
No,
sad.
That's like saying depression is just sadness. Like, that's not really. You're oversimplifying it.
No, that's what it is. That's what they've talked about. It's his depression about being Spider-Man makes him doubt being Spider-Man. He loses his powers because he wants to bang Mary Jane.
So you're
and he
saying
can't.
that a crippling depression doesn't affect your ability?
To say that Spider-Man 3 is emo because he has his hair flipped over, you're like, yeah, he has an emo haircut, but he is not emo Spider-Man in that. He actually gets more confidence. You know, he's walking around, jiggling his hips, sexually
so
assaulting
bad.
women.
Yeah, he did.
He's more confident. I would not call him emo in that other than the haircut.
Spider-Man 2 is definitely the best out of those three, hands down.
I disagree.
Yeah. No, I know. It's fine.
Out of the 3, I think that it's Spider-Man 2 is like just slightly better than honestly the first one. The first one,
I think that movie's been
is
put on a
great movie.
pedestal. Like, it makes no sense. Doc Ock shouldn't be able to take any hits from Spider-Man.
I think
Harry
it's a more
Osborn in
emotional
there
film
is
than the
bad.
other three. I think
That might be what
emotionally
it is.
it's
more
impactful.
emotional than your surrogate father coming and trying to kill
Yeah,
you.
but that-
And
You know, Doc Ock could be the way in for him to understand technology in the new Spider-Verse for
I
some.
know you're saying.
yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is in the Spider-Man video game.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to all these Spider-Man reboots and, you know, if you can, like for somebody like me who didn't grow up reading the comics, I'm just observing like an actor in a role of somebody that got bit by a radioactive spider and has these goofy abilities, and then he wants to help people. Like, and he's trying to like struggle through his own life situations while doing that. So like, and I feel like the majority of people are probably in that same position who enjoy Spider-Man. Like, they're not people that grew up with the comic books.
Right.
Or do you disagree?
No, it has to be.
I feel like the majority
No,
probably just
I
watch
agree
it
with
and,
that,
and
yeah.
they're like, I don't know anything about this.
Comic
Like,
book
you can
fans
tell
were
me
niche.
anything.
I'll tell you, comic book fans were niche when I was growing up. It was.
I know I had a lot of friends that
absolutely.
read comic
A
books.
lot of kids read
Yeah.
comic book, but I think it was a more niche thing. Now it's like cool to be a nerd. Back then it was considered nerdy, you know, unless if you
was
were a
almost a
kid that
hidden
was okay, but it's, the older you got, it's sort of like now you have adult Kevin, you know, everybody's Kevin Smith now. It's like it's okay to be an adult and love comic books. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, Mike saying that he has all the Spider-Man stuff, like that's not considered nerdy now. 20, 30 years ago, I don't think it was considered like cool.
Yeah, look at like the Funko Pops. Like
Yeah.
everybody is collecting these.
I got him. I got a
These
Die
things,
Hard one.
I got.
You got me. Yeah, Neil got me a Die Hard one for Christmas.
It's
kind of
amazing,
awesome,
actually.
It's kind
they,
of awesome.
They had a what was the guy who says the T-shirt says ho 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 ho?
Tony.
Tony. Yeah, they
Yes,
have a
that's
Tony
awesome.
Funko Pop.
Yeah,
it's like
But
insane.
You got me the John McClane one, and he has the tally marks on
Yeah.
how many bad guys like written on
They're
it.
actually pretty amazing.
They're pretty
actually,
cool,
yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the movies have transcended the comic books. You know what I mean? There was a
Yeah.
reason why before the movies came out, Marvel itself was on the outs and was going to go bankrupt. You know, they were going to be no more, but these movies saved them, starting with Blade and then eventually, you know, going further with what they
Spawn.
have now. Yeah, Spawn. Yeah, so I think
Spawn's not
Yeah,
Marvel.
that was what.
No,
That's fine.
I say start. I thought you said comic book films.
Oh no, I'm talking about Marvel specifically. Anyway, so I think let's see what happens. I mean, maybe by the time we even drop this podcast, which
It'll have been resolved.
yeah, it's gonna be resolved, and this whole thing's gonna
Yeah.
be null and void.
Dated.
And
But
we're-
the other thing is, even if they resolve it, there's still a chance that exactly what we fear could happen is still going to happen, unless Sony decides to like give the rights, which would be a blunder everybody, I think, would
Obviously-
consider that a dumb move if they just gave the rights. I think they should and just walk away from it, but they
They're
would
not-
be
oh, no.
essentially throwing away a lot of money.
It would be
Yeah,
stupid.
they can't do
but
Spider-Verse
like,
if they did
having Marvel own the rights to all these comic book characters just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like for the audience, for fans, it makes sense. Not for people that are interested in making money, but for the fans who are interested in spending money because they
Artistically.
love this entertainment. Yes, it makes
that.
sense.
I'm pretty sure that
But for making money as well.
Yeah.
They've made their biggest movie ever under
under
MCU.
yeah. Yeah, they should.
Look at what happened with Men in Black this year.
Yeah.
With Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, two actors.
that
who were
was
blowing
not a
up.
bad film.
That movie
But
bombed.
they didn't do
Oh,
financially.
did it bomb?
They
They
numbers.
didn't do numbers.
Did you see
It was
it?
crazy.
No, why would I see it?
It's not a bad film
I
at
told
all.
you I wasn't going to see it
I
when
know
we
you said
talked
I didn't
about
see
it.
it. I didn't see it. I,
I
meant
thought
to
you
see
saw it.
No,
But
I
it's
meant
also
to see it.
marketing. Like Sony sucks at
They
marketing.
do. They
Yeah.
are horrible at marketing.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Like,
Yeah.
look at the Ghostbusters was considered one of the worst trailers of all time. Like that trailer was.
It was.
awful.
They picked out all the hokey stuff and they just made it seem normal.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is supposed to be unique. It's not supposed to feel like every other movie.
RoboCop and Total Recall. If you watch those trailers, you saw the entire movie.
Yeah, I thought Total
Amazing
Recall had an
Spider-Man
okay
2,
trailer,
Amazing
but it-
Spider-Man. You knew the whole
Yeah,
movie.
I thought Total Recall had an okay trailer, but it made it seem like Bourne. And it's like, don't
Yeah.
show us the same Bourne shit. But I don't
Well,
know.
they did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was Sony produced.
Oh yeah, they did. They got the rights to that. But
Yeah.
that's Tarantino. That wasn't them.
That wasn't
You know,
them.
that was
Yeah,
never gonna
well,
suck.
you're right,
You know,
yeah.
that was never gonna suck.
No,
Yeah.
and the only reason he's there is,
Yeah.
homeboys in court.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Homeboys
you know what we're
in
talking
court.
about.
Oh my gosh.
Harvey, and we're not talking about the Invisible Rabbit.
Oh, is that his name? I thought his name was Homeboy.
Yeah, that's his name.
Harvey, that's his name.
Harvey don't play that.
Homeboy Weinstein.
Homeboy.
Harvey don't play that. It's like homeboy.
If that
Homie
was
the
his
Clown.
actual name, a lot of stuff
Yeah.
probably never would have happened.
Oh,
Woof. We try to avoid getting too much into that shit in this podcast, but
Yeah.
My thing is like until I see the films, because this could go
I
back and
always say
forth.
that.
This could go back and forth. They can come back and say, Sony come back and say, okay. Then come back, no.
What
And
if-
it's
here's an actual real plausible scenario. So they do part ways. They never get back together. Sony comes out with a series of movies which are fucking phenomenal and better than they've ever done before. That's a real world possibility. And if that happens, we're all going to be eating crow. You know what I mean? And be like, all right, well, I guess they did it.
I think that like what there's a chance that could happen.
Yeah.
It's extremely
It's not a
not
low
likely, only because
Not low
the
odds.
fans of the Marvel Universe are going to be so upset that they're going to like, regardless if this movie is good or not, they're going to attack the movie. It could be a perfect film,
Yep.
and they would go after
I
it
don't know
because
that
they
that's
hate
true.
Sony for breaking up
I
the
don't
Marvel
think that's
Universe.
true.
I'm-
Art
I
think
think
trumps
it is.
hype
No, these
sometimes.
fans are crazy, man.
yeah, fans,
you don't know.
dude. They create movements. They really do today.
Yeah,
Like,
they're going to
Twitter
get like
and stuff,
50
it-
million
fuck them.
people
Yeah.
to sign
It's horrible. I
ban
hate it.
Sony.
Fuck
But
them.
I hate it
Fuck them.
because
And fuck you, Mike. And fuck you, Diego. And fuck you, Neil.
I think
I doubt there'll be I doubt they'll make good Spider-Man movies. Like, just look at the track record. They haven't made a great. I'm not gonna say they haven't made a good movie in a while, but they haven't made a truly great movie.
What if they
in a
brought? What
while.
if they
did
brought?
the- they did the Bond.
What if they brought the two guys, the Spider Verse guys?
Yeah,
What if
they
they
did
actually
Bond.
brought them into the live
That's
action
what I'm
world?
saying. With the exception of Into the Spider-Verse, but even going back to the Bond movies, Skyfall was the last good one.
Yes.
Spectre was okay.
There's only one movie.
Skyfall was considered great, but even Skyfall had some weird, like, it doesn't
wasn't no
really
Casino
make sense
Royale.
because they're trying to say
already
that
said that,
this was the same Bond the entire time.
Yeah.
And it just
But
doesn't
what
make
if they
sense from a
bring- what's
timeline
the-
standpoint and the gadgets.
Miller and whatchamacallit, what if they bring the Spider-Verse guys and they bring them into the live action world to create that universe? You know, that could
I
be
think that'd be
amazing.
too
I mean,
much.
they're good. People love them.
no. I want a rated R Venom. I think this whole MCU up.
Oh, and that's
MCU
the other thing
mix-up
that's-
it was, maybe
Anti-Sony for me is they said
I know.
that Venom was going to be rated R, and then they changed it. They have lied constantly
wasn't-
to try to make
wasn't-
this thing happen. So they said it was going to be rated R. They said Tom Holland was going to be in the movie. They said Peter Parker was going to be in the movie, but not Spider-Man. They said that Venom was part of the MCU. They are just riding the coattails of Marvel and trying to do as little work as possible and reap the rewards, which, yes, making money, that makes sense. But when push comes to shove, their safest move with the lowest risk is to stick with the status quo. Even if they have to give up a little bit, their ROI isn't going to change, especially with Marvel wanting to co-finance. Marvel wants to put up money now and partially pay for these films. So inevitably Marvel's going to make a movie that bombs.
but the history books will be
It's
written
gonna
not
happen.
about the people who stayed with the status quo, but the people who made history. No, that's true. Like there's a point when you have to make these gambles. Like Sony knows that they're fucked without the
Right.
MCU, so that
But-
means they're never going to get better without
There's
them.
such thing as a stupid
history
gamble. Like
has already
they
been
can
told
now
about
go and say instead of spending $400 million on a movie, they can spend $200 million. And even if the movie bombs, their risk isn't anywhere near what it would be
Exactly
on their
by
own.
what you're saying, it's obviously not a financial the money is not the factor. It's really, I think, property somewhere in property rights. They have not
Right.
negotiated something that Sony feels beneficial for them.
Right.
I think because if they keep using Tom Holland in the MCU universe, it might possibly be that just ruins the Spider-Verse. There's just too much, they have a lot of plans for Tom Holland.
Their hands are tied.
So
their hands are tied if they leave him
yeah.
in the MCU. Like
Exactly.
all these other things they want to do. If they can't acknowledge Tom Holland or Spider-Man in any of those movies in the Spider-Man universe, they're fucked. And that is actually true
Yeah.
if you think about it. So Sony is, I think, thinking with what their options are for the future.
Yeah.
Like we could stick here and do the safe thing and make some money, or we can create a future.
Exactly.
And the future doesn't exist without Spider-Man. And if they can't take him out of the MCU, they're fucked.
Yeah.
So
It's-
I get it. I get
I
both
understand
sides.
that.
I
Yeah,
get both
I do
sides. I
truly
really
do.
do. And that's why I want to see how it works out for everybody.
They should just
Yeah.
cut Tom Holland and go with an older version of Spider-Man and do like Mel Gibson.
They should bring what's his face. They should bring what's his face.
I would see that in a fucking heartbeat.
you.
I would be the
So-
first
I
one.
would-
Midnight show. Fucking
So-
Mel Gibson playing old geezer
And then he
Spider-Man.
matches up with Tom Hardy, who's the new Mad Max, and it's like the Mad
Oh
Max
my
fucking
god,
generations.
that would be so good.
Jesus.
Yeah, I would fucking see that. But I want to see what is his name,
Sony,
Nicholas Brendan.
hire me to pitch your shit.
What-
Hire me to pitch your
What
shit.
was it?
I
Who
got
was
you.
the guy who Nicholas Hammond? The guy who played the original Spider-Man in the live-action TV show.
In the CBS TV
yeah, I
series.
fucking loved that show as a kid. I had it on VHS, and I loved it.
He just had the ropes.
Oh, it's so good. But he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He played the director of the Western, and I didn't realize that at all until I read it. I was like, that's Nicholas Hammond. He's one of the Von Trapp kids from the original Sound of Music.
Oh,
you remember
wow.
the
Yeah.
guy with the white hair and that was the director during the Western film that was like
That comes to him and when he's in like
"We're gonna
the
get
makeup
tassel."
room
Yes,
or whatever.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
He played Spider-Man in the 70s.
Marvel
Wow,
should do
okay.
this. Disney should do this. Hey, Sony, we'll give you Captain Marvel if you give us Spider-Man.
Oh,
That's a good trade-off, right?
Why would they do that?
That's a good trade-off, right? That's the whole point. Is like that was one of those
I don't
their
know.
least successful films.
I think it was a very successful
You
film.
just
It
wasted our time with that, Diego. You just wasted our time with that statement.
Are you serious?
It wouldn't be the first time. All right.
I mean, it's interesting because Spider-Man it's like he's like in the top 3 Marvel, most known Marvel characters, I would say.
Superhero characters. I'd
He's
say,
really
across
become
all of different
iconic.
comic books.
He has become
Superman,
iconic.
Batman, Spider-Man. I would say those 3. Even
Those are the
Yeah.
three.
Even outside Wolverine.
if you're building a Mount Rushmore, those are the
Mount
three
Rushmore.
for sure that you're going to
I
put
mean,
up
everybody
there.
knew Spider-Man even before the movies, and you couldn't say the same about Wolverine or Iron Man or any of these other guys or any of the Marvel guys. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, everybody knew those 3, and then probably Wonder Woman and maybe Captain America or something. But I'd say, yeah, those 3. Everybody knew them.
Yeah.
Everybody knew them.
Yeah.
So,
Yup.
There you go. So this probably
All right.
went a little longer than we wanted. This is what we do for bringing in a fucking 4th person. You go crazy.
Yeah,
It just-
idiots.
Yeah. Wow, Mike.
Smart move.
That's rude, man.
Don't
You're
I
our
feel-
guest.
Hopefully it'll all just resolve itself and this will be like a bad dream and we'll wake up, Monday morning.
Where are you talking about,
and,
Sony or the
they'll just-
podcast?
And that's the end. That was good.
Scene.
End scene.
I feel like we're making Sony decisions right now.
Yes.
All right, Mike, thank you for joining us, man. This was awesome. Always appreciate.
Thanks for having
Always
me.
appreciate having you on. Definitely. We'll have. I don't know what else to say about.
Yeah. He
I
just
kinda
trails
lost on
off
the pitch.
and
I
he
just
just
did.
he doesn't know
I
how
really
to
did.
end ever. He's
I
like,
do
should
know how
I
to
say
end.
something to close it up or
No,
should I just?
it's confusing because
Just go to the
Neil
thing.
always comes in at the end.
I haven't said anything.
You haven't
Yeah.
actually.
I
this
want
time,
to,
So this
but
is
no,
totally
I
mine.
don't know.
I was waiting for Diego to end it. He's normally the one that tells you guys to shut up. Let's end
That's
the
true.
episode.
He won't. Yeah.
Here's okay, Mike. I'm gonna tell you like this. If you were in the room, you will understand. Like I spend 10 minutes trying to tell him to like
He's
quiet
doing
down.
hand gestures. Hand
Shut
gestures.
it down. And
I don't
I'm
understand
hand
your
gestures
fucking
and
sign language
everything.
at all. I'm
And
like,
at a certain point, I just fucking give up. I'm like, whatever.
He has a giant clock with the readout that has a countdown, and we just ignore it. We're
yeah,
just
he's
like,
throwing shit at us.
I could tell Nick was trying to end it, and I think I mentioned it. I think Nick's trying to end it, but then I had a couple things to say. I had to be a Neil.
Yeah, there you go.
No,
All right.
see,
Never be a Neil.
Never
Always
be a
be a
Neil.
Nick.
Yeah.
Always be a Neil.
Always be a Neil. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us here at Get to the Movies. That's Get to the Movies with the number 2. My name is Tiago D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
I'm Mike.
There you go.
Wow, that was very anticlimactic. I'm Mike.
I'm Mike.
Mike from MDX Pods, thank you for so much. We're also, go check out his podcast, MDX Pods. You got 2 of them, Remake, Rewind, and Ruin My Childhood, where he both ruins your childhood and remakes and rewinds things.
And he's
That's
got
not really an accurate description, but we've had him on several times. They're all over every podcast platform. MDX Pods, check them out.
And
Thanks,
then
Mike.
his new one coming out. Marvel wins at the Game of Life.
Jeez, yeah.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.